What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman back at it again with the Cave. Now, every Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, I will be going live with a very special guest each and every week. Used to be Mondays, had to move it to Tuesdays, and this is the first week in which we will be doing it on Tuesdays. And I'm very, very excited to be having a very special guest on. Once again, Nate from the Buffalo Rumblings, circling the Wagons podcast. Nate does a tremendous job over on the Buffalo Rumblings, and that's where we will get right into the guest spotlight. Nate is one of the biggest podcasters in the entire community. I got to be honest. He does a tremendous job with the product that he produces. Like I said, he's the host of the Circling the Wagons podcast. It releases every Monday. He's a part of the Buffalo Rumblings. And he does have his own clothing line / T Public site. I have purchased from it before. I will add that on. I got the Third and Cole sweatshirt for my girlfriend. I believe that was back in oh man, I think it had to be before Christmas time, if I remember correctly. That could be way off, but that was a really cool sweatshirt. Be sure you're checking all of that out. Links will be down in the description below for all of the stuff that you may need to check him out. But without further ado, Nate, why don't you give yourself a little bit more of an introduction?
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much, Michael. That was an amazing introduction. I heard Justice on with you last week, and I was like, man, that was a good introduction for Justice, but I think you might have outdone that one with this one. So no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. I like the format of this show. It's a pretty cool setup, and yeah, I appreciate all the kind words. I don't know if I agree with everything nice you said about me, but it's also nice to hear that every once in a while. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every word is true, and I'm sure I'm not the only person to be telling you these things, man. You've gotten to where you've gotten to for a reason, and you're obviously one of the best in the community that's doing so right now. So you deserve a ton of credit, man. So with that being said, I wish I can find some way to bring your icon onto the stream yard. I don't know how. Anyway, we will move on. So after the guest spotlight, we move into the recent events. So anything going on in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills, we will be talking about. And we're going to get into the Q and A or the recent news. And the first piece of news that we have, unfortunately, it came out that Kim Pagula was hospitalized today. Very sad to hear. I hope it's nothing too serious. Obviously, it must be serious enough that she's in the ICU. But prayers out to Kim Pagula and the Pagula family. It's they're obviously a tremendous part of Bill's Mafia, the entire community of Buffalo, and it's very sad to see. But I hope that she's able to battle back with whatever she's dealing with.
Yeah, it's funny because I shouldn't say it's funny. It's just it's interesting that like I feel as if she's more of the face of ownership than Terry Pagula is, if that makes any sense. Like I know that they're both, co-owners and they both, are basically, part of it, but she's always the face you see more often, whether it's on the sidelines or in the war room on draft day or making speaking. I feel like Terry's just more of a quieter person, and just isn't much for public speaking, and Kim just kind of takes on that role, wholeheartedly. And there's definitely been some things where like her and the family, especially as it goes to the Sabres organization, like it kind of rubbed fans the wrong way. But I mean, as a Bills fan, mostly as a Bills fan, I got to be honest, like I like her, the way that she shows up, the way that she bakes cookies for the front office, Brandon Bean, and all the scouts and everything during the draft. Like that's a motherly thing to do. Like she, I don't think she came from riches or anything, just like Terry didn't either. So like it's kind of it there's definitely a little bit more of a feel. And obviously, like you said, prayers out to her because we hope it's nothing serious. They would not divulge as to like how serious it was, the whatever she's hospitalized with, and I'm sure that's a good thing to keep under wraps. But yeah, for sure, especially her being one of the first. I don't know if she is the first or one of the first co-owners that's a female. Like that's huge. And I think she's done Bill's Mafia proud for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I for one, I'm not sure about you, but I'm a big Sabres fan too. And the Sabres, you kind of touched on it for a second. Not many people in the Sabres community, Sabres fan base, are too fond of the Pugula's work over the last 10 years or so. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they're still a huge part of this community. It has nothing to do with especially a circumstance like this. You can remove all of that and put that to the side and just hope and pray that she's able to pull through whatever she's dealing with. And I'm pretty confident she will. They're pretty strong people, and they gotten like you said, I think you were right. Both of them came from not the greatest of situations, so they've gotten to where they were because they're very strong individuals. So I think she's going to be okay in person.
Yeah.
And the second piece of recent news, which is something that I've been talking about on this show every week, but every single time there seems to be an update on it, and it's not positive. Deshaun Watson potentially now has two more incoming lawsuits, bringing the total up to 26. I don't know how long this is going to go on, but at least in my opinion, until there is proper punishment, I'm will gladly see this go on until he is properly punished. I just can't believe that it's still the number's still growing. It's baffling.
Yeah, this is something that just doesn't seem to go away. And maybe for good reason. Maybe it's good that it keeps shedding light on something like this. Like I'm all for one that's for like due process of people. I think a lot of times there are celebrities or whatever that get kind of a rough shake at certain things. Like they weren't as bad as some people. Like I know the Me Too movement was great for like weeding out some really terrible, awful people in the world. Like the why can't I think of the guy who the huge producers that's now in prison? Anyway, the guy who's like a scumbag who's going after actresses and all these sexual assault charges. Like that guy needs to be buried under a prison, right? Like there are guys like that, but then there are also people that are like, like that's kind of sounded like a bad date, like it was like both sides of it, right? And then you have this guy, and you're like, well, I have nothing. I can't say anything positive of. If it was one person, maybe, right? If it was two people, it's kind of a lot, but maybe there's a small, sliver of hope that you're innocent. And there's 26 now. I mean, there's just I don't know. It seems like a lot. I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. He's making it very tough, and I guess you'd have to say even if like half of them were completely made up, that's still 13 people that were telling the truth about that. The guy sounds like he's got issues, and I don't know the legality of it, so I won't pretend to be a lawyer, but I'm really curious of why that hasn't gone, or why they haven't been able to collect enough evidence now to actually throw criminal charges at him. And if it's funny because like you see like Browns fans trying to justify all of this, and I'm just like it's one thing where the Browns fans are, and I get it, but like doesn't it just make you that much happier that Josh Allen is our quarterback? Like we don't have to like make this like, well, I guess, like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or, even like Michael Vick back in the day, like, yeah, well, whatever. At least he wins his football games. Like we don't have to do that.
Oh yeah, it's a blessing, and that speaks to the organization and this franchise. Not only with Josh Allen individually, but this franchise as a whole. We don't have to worry about these outside distractions or these inter franchise drama events, for lack of a better term. I mean, the Washington football team or the Commanders. They're famous for it. The Raiders have been going through stuff on a year-to-year basis. Now it seems like the Cleveland Browns are getting involved with all these antics. It's like it's just so nice to feel fundamentally sound and safe, and just that things like this are not going to go on in this locker room because that's the culture that's been built. And if there's something there, it's probably been weeded out, and it's never been brought to light in the first place. So not only with Josh Allen am I very grateful, but just the structure that Brandon Beane, Coach McDermott, and the entire coaching staff has brought along. It's really
Exactly.
that I think.
Absolutely. Another reason why Josh Allen is worth every penny of that contract, and another thing, like, I don't mean to just like it, criticize Browns fans, but every coach or every team rather that was going after Deshaun Watson is just as bad. I mean, you have the Panthers, the Saints, the Dolphins. I think were in there. There's like two or three other teams, and it's like, no, you're just as bad. You just didn't end up trading the farm for him. So, yeah, it's frustrating to see all this happen. And I feel really bad for all the people that went through this and that had to be a part of this. And like. I'm just wondering how long. I was listening to you and Justice talk about it. I was thinking about last week. It's funny, even more stuff comes out. Like you said, every week you're talking about this, and I was like, oh, Ezekiel Elliott got like 6 games or something ridiculous for that. But then I remembered that was domestic abuse charge that never ended up being true, I believe. So, like, I think the NFL just apparently handles sexual abuse differently than domestic abuse. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. They've never been consistent with punishments. I think everybody's been made aware that they really are selective with the way they hand out punishment, depending on the player, the crime, the way it impacts them. Specifically, like the Calvin Ridley thing that's been compared to this situation a number of times now. I mean, at this point, if Deshaun Watson doesn't at least get what Calvin Ridley got, then the NFL, at least for their sake, because I'd imagine that they care most about the PR nightmare that would cause them, they have to at least give him a season. Do you have a prediction for how long you think he's going to be out for?
Jeez, at, at this point, I don't know if he misses any games. I would hope so. The Calvin Ridley thing is interesting because, like you said, what did he bet? Like $1,500 on a game or something like that. Something, whatever. It was not a large amount of money. But the thing about that is, and it's funny because we talked about this after the Bills lost. Like a couple of weeks, we were doing podcasts and just like recaps and the games and everything like that. And Calvin Ridley had just gone through his suspension, and we went through this exact argument. And my co-host point was, which is a very good point, is the Calvin Ridley betting on the game delegitimizes the game itself. So it's almost like, it would be the equivalent of finding out that the US government was behind 9/11. Like we legitimately found out for a fact. So like if you delegitimize the game like that, like the consequences of like losing like an entire like fan bases and people as a group to that is huge. Just look how much they tried to sweep under the NBA tried to sweep under the rug the that ref that was working with the mob, like
Oh,
shaving points, So that's the last thing the NFL needs. So if they have a hint of a sniff, like they have to come down hard on these guys. And yeah, like from the outside in, like from a personal standpoint for you and I, it makes complete sense for Deshaun Watson to miss at least one season based on that punishment. But for them, for the guys that are making the money, they need to make sure they keep making more money. And Deshaun Watson getting fined, 6 games or whatever might be fine enough for them. And they just need to get people off their case essentially, which isn't necessarily the right way to look at it, but that's how they look at it, right?
yeah, totally. And that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. The money, what's going to make them the most money. And the NFL is I guess they benefit from the fact that they are so big, so entertaining, and they kind of control, the entertainment landscape in terms of sports in this country. So they're able to get away with the fact that even if they did hypothetically really screw the situation up, we would probably all move on and just watch football normally. Nobody's going to stop watching football, stop supporting the NFL, and they know that. And that's unfortunately the reality of everything.
Exactly.
But enough of that. I'm sure next week or tomorrow, for that matter.
You'll be hashing this out next week with your other guest.
Oh my gosh, I'd imagine. I mean, this number, it's not stopping. It's ridiculous. But anyway, moving on. The third piece of recent news that came out, I think today, if not yesterday. But Jordan Poyer is now attending Bills minicamp. I, for one, went into this offseason thinking not much change would happen, not only with the Buffalo Bills, but with any team in the offseason. And I was proven absolutely wrong with Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, all these other big names being moved around, and even us getting Von Miller. So I was still of the opinion that I didn't think Jordan Poyer was going to be going anywhere. But knowing how this offseason had gone, I had to keep it in the back of my mind, that maybe on the off chance he could be going somewhere. But I'm not too shocked that he's been attending now.
So this is interesting. I mean, he wouldn't have hired Drew Rosenhaus for his next contract, would he? I guess that's what I'm wondering because I'm trying to see the long play of this or if it's just a short play. Like there's definitely a benefit of getting management in place if you're looking for a payday next offseason. But would it be more likely that you saw Stephon Diggs's contract and you're like, what the hell? Like, let me get a new agent because this is BS. I should be in line for another contract. Um, there's part of me that thinks the worst, that thinks that this might be the last time we see Jordan Poyer in a jersey, and I'm not sure if he necessarily makes it to the season. I would like to think he would. I believe it's tougher for players now to sit out camp than it used to be. based on like fines and stuff like that. That's why he's at minicamp, is because he would get fined if he wasn't there, because this is mandatory minicamp as opposed to like OTAs earlier that were, it's just not, mandatory at this point. So, or at that point, but um, I go back and forth in this, and I'm leaning more towards he needs to get this last final payday, and he's not waiting till next season to do it. So he's either going to force the Bills' hand of like a trade, or something's gonna, or he's gonna sit or something, because like you can only go down from here if you're Jordan Poyer. If you're an All Pro, like there's the sky's your first team All Pro, no less, not just All Pro, first team All Pro. Like the sky's you've reached the sun. Like you can only go down. So anything less than that, another All Pro, and he's gonna try to negotiate a contract with less to ammo. So man, if I were him, I would keep putting the fire on the Pagulas of on Brandon Bean in the front office. Like, pay me. I don't think, honestly, like if I had to choose between him and Tremaine Edmonds, I'd have a hard time. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Maybe that's a topic for another time. But uh, I'm not surprised he's there, because I know he would get fined, but I'm surprised. I feel like at this point I'd be kind of surprised if he plays for the Bills this year. A lot of the Bills fan base does not seem surprised by that. So I guess that's kind of like a small hot take right now. But I kind of be surprised if he plays the 2022 season with the Bills without a contract extension.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I would consider that a hot take in itself. I mean, I think most Bills fans, including myself, they see Jordan Poyer attending the camp, and you're kind of automatically under the assumption that he's going to be coming back, and that's honestly the way I was looking at it. But you bring up a lot of great points. There probably are significant fines when not attending minicamp that I wasn't thinking about. There are other, you brought up the fact that he hired Drew Rosenhaus. You don't just hire Drew Rosenhaus for what's the word? Easy settlements, I guess, for lack of a better
Mhm.
term. Like, Drew Rosenhaus is that guy when it comes to getting contract extensions, getting big trades done. He is an agent for a lot of the big names in the NFL, and a lot of those big names found bigger contracts on other teams this offseason. So, you bring up a lot of great points, and it does make me, once again, turn my head and wonder, what will Jordan Poyer be doing by the time the season rolls around? But that's something we'll all have to keep an eye on, even though he is attending camp.
And don't get me wrong, like I want him to be here, because he is the best chance the Bills have. Him being here is the best chance for the Bills to make the Super Bowl. Him not being here definitely hurts the team altogether. The secondary, the defense altogether, like that's a huge loss. I just hope that he can somehow find it in his heart just to take his $10 million contract for this last year, and then just, ride off into the sun, and win that Super Bowl for the Bills, and then, just go find your big payday with someone else. But we'll miss you, but at least you'll have gotten that ring, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I gotta imagine that Jordan Poyer knows, like, I really want that. I really want the money, but this is probably the best opportunity I'm ever gonna get for the rest of my career. But
Mhm.
everybody's different. So, a lot of these guys handle these kind of situations differently. So
And he
it'll
is
be
31, right? So it's not like he's a young guy looking. He's not like he's going to get 2 more contracts, Matt Milano, I mean, well, he's like 27 actually. But like he'll get another contract after this if he plays like the next 2 years really well. Like those guys, like there are guys that'll get, separate contracts. He's just not one of them. This was his chance. I know he just re-signed a couple of years ago for, a pretty big deal, but he wants that top. He's paid, I believe, is the 13th highest paid safety, and, I'm sure he wants top 5 money. So, I mean, can I blame him? No. Do I want him to still play under his current contract because it's what's best for the Bills, and the Bills don't have a ton of cap space right now? Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how that all pans out. Very, very interesting points you make. And, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out, as I think every single Bills fan will be. But the other thing that's been going on, the last piece of recent news that I wanted to touch on this week, was Tyreek Hill running his mouth. I don't know if you happen to hear some of the comments that Tyreek Hill made on a podcast that he started to debut, I think a couple days ago. And he made some interesting comments that really made you think, like, is this guy delusional? Is there something going on in Kansas City? What's happening? But I like to think that Tyreek Hill is a little bit full of himself at the moment. I don't know about you.
Now, these were the comments where he was saying that Tua is better than Mahomes, essentially, or something to that effect, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And he also went on to say things like, Patrick Mahomes, he wasn't outright saying Mahomes was going to struggle without him, but he was kind of saying, like, he was making things a lot easier on Mahomes. So you're going to notice a difference. He was making little subtle
Yeah, I think that's definitely gonna happen this season. I mean, he is after that 50 touchdown season, he's been really good, but he hasn't been as good as that first season. And I mean, Tyreek Hill, it's funny. I had Justice on my podcast a few weeks ago. And we were talking about Patrick Mahomes v. Josh Allen, like, right? Like, who's the better quarterback at this stage? And we were saying, like, you can't ignore the fact that he lost his best weapon. Like, I mean, Tyreek Hill is like a cheat code for a player, right? Like, I mean, how many other players can you do a 7-yard pass to and the guy takes it the distance, like he did to us in the AFC divisional game? Like that's how good he is. And I remember listening to Levi Wallace. He was on a podcast with Jay Spence on the
defense.
Buffalo Rumblings podcast network, and he said, "I've never seen a player that fast in my entire life." So, I mean, he's played against some good players the last 4 years with the Bills. So it's not like he's that he's a rookie. Like the guy's played, and he was at Alabama too. So let's not forget that he played legitimate, NFL prospect. So, um, I think it's funny. I think it's dumb for him to say that because I don't think Tyreek Hill's a very smart guy. It's funny when he was playing against the Buffalo Bills. Do you remember? I think it was the championship game. The Bills are getting destroyed. I mean, I know that the score was kind of close, but they were just getting routed by the Chiefs. They had no business being in that game or staying in that game. And like there was some frustration by the Bills. The Bills were shoving a little bit more. They were tired of getting tossed around, so they started doing some shoving and like it kind of got a little rowdy on the field, right? Especially with that Josh Allen, someone was, I forget, it was Chris Jones or someone tried to push Josh Allen or whatever. So then the offensive lineman got in Chris Jones' face, and there was a little scuffle on the field. And Tyreek Hill was the first guy to run off the sideline, like they had to hold him back, right? Like he's on the offense and he's trying to stick up for the defense. So Tyreek Hill's a little off. I think he flies off the handle. I don't think he's thinks everything really, thinks everything through that he's about to do or going to say or going to do. So that was kind of ridiculous. But I think I think I think Patrick Mahomes is definitely going to struggle this year a little bit more than he ever would have. Sky Moore is not Tyreek Hill. Very few players are like Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, he's still going to have a good season. He's just not going to have a godlike season this season. And I think Tyreek Hill is definitely going to struggle for sure with Tua. I mean, how could you not? You go from a guy who was like what, like maybe like Tua was like what, maybe like a top 20 quarterback from a guy who was a top 1, 2, 3 quarterback. So, I mean, we've seen receivers get traded and it doesn't usually work out for them, minus Stephon Diggs. Like, what was the last? I mean, Amari Cooper. I'm trying to think of wide receivers that have really done well after a trade, and it hasn't been that many. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the list is short. I mean, I can't even think of anybody else that comes to mind. Top receivers. Odell Beckham's another example of a guy that got traded away. Granted, it wasn't entirely his fault, but he went to a different team, and he's no longer been the receiver we once saw him when he was back with New York. So I mean, that does happen very often, and it makes me think like a guy like Tyreek Hill, he does impact the game. And, I heard Justice on your podcast, and he's a big proponent of, Patrick Mahomes being brought up in a kind of a very spoiled environment, one of the best head coaches in the NFL, in NFL history for that matter. Travis Kelsey, one of the smartest tight ends in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, one of the most, different game changers that the league has ever seen. Like he really believes that Mahomes has been catered, and I think it's kind of hard to dispute that. But I think Tyreek Hill discounts the fact, and you also touched on it, that not only does this affect Patrick Mahomes, but it affects him too. And I do just find it bizarre why he finds the need to defend Tua Tagovailoa as much as he has been. And that's something that Bill's Twitter, and I'm sure as you see Dolphins Twitter, go back and forth about. Pretty much everybody against Dolphins Twitter, it's like they have this very paranoid like need to constantly defend Tua Tagovailoa against everything and anything, and it's just like it's making people hate the guy when I don't think he really is doing anything wrong. It's just people are being hypersensitive.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I've definitely seen the comparisons of Tua's first 2 seasons versus Josh Allen's first 2 seasons, and I just don't think it's really a fair comparison. For that from that standpoint. But yeah, I've seen I don't even not like Tua. Like he's fine. Like I don't have an issue with honestly any of the quarter. I don't have an issue with Mac Jones for the most part. I know the Bills Mafia likes to hate him, and I get that for sure because he's a Patriots quarterback, but he's not Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't earned all that hatred yet. So he's done some shady things. I don't like him, but I don't hate him. So yeah, I see the thing with Tua. The thing about the difference between Tua and Josh Allen is Josh Allen was almost set up to fail his rookie season, whereas Tua was not. They drafted a lot of pieces around him. I mean, Josh Allen didn't even get all the starting reps in training camp. He just kind of came in halfway through the first half of the first game and is like, and his offensive line was like, Vlad Dukas and John Miller. And it was just this ragtag team of like his best wide receiver was Kelvin Benjamin. Like that's how bad it was. Zay Jones might have been the leading receiver on his like rookie season. Like that's how bad it was. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes getting handed the keys. He was a trust fund kid. All he's known is success. All he's known is stability and, consistency and some of the best minds and players working around him. So this is going to be a big deal. Patrick Mahomes not having the division all to himself with having like a ton of pass rushers and a ton of good quarterbacks in that division specifically, like it's going to be interesting to see how they do against each other and how much they probably cannibalize each other. So it's going to be fun to watch from the sidelines, right? Like watching the drama we're going to be eating the popcorn, but they're going to be the ones stressing about it.
Oh yeah, it's going to be this year is going to be, I think, one of the most entertaining years of NFL football that we've seen in a decent amount of time. I mean, the talent level in the AFC is through the roof. And no game is going to be boring. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this very hyped up season plays out. But moving on from the recent news, we're going to move into the Q&A. And the Q&A first question that we have today is going to be this: building an NFL defense from scratch, are you starting with pass coverage or are you starting with pass rush? This came from, I think it was Anthony from Cover One. I think he posted this question on Twitter, and it got me thinking, and I wanted to ask you it today.
Man, that sounds like a Bruce Nolan question too. I mean, I love Anthony on Cover One. Bruce Nolan has done from Bruce Exclusive has done a podcast based solely on that with Joe Marino. And I was listening to them both duke it out because Joe Marino is like a pass rush guy and Bruce Exclusive is you know, uh, I'm sorry, coverage guy. So like it was interesting hearing them go back and forth. But let me put it to you this way. So the Bills defense was the number one defense last year. And you could argue that their pass rush wasn't that good outside of like blitzing and getting to the quarterback in very creative ways. I mean, Jerry Hughes was one of their best pass rushers. He had 2.5 sacks, right? Like Mario Addison had 7 sacks and he's like 80. So like, this isn't I think the Bills would have benefited so much more from having a really good pass rusher, a la like, Von Miller, obviously. That's why the Bills fans were excited about it. But man, I'm going to go with pass rush on this because the Bills have a great defensive unit when it comes to covering wide receivers and tight ends. And if you look at that AFC divisional game against the Chiefs, if you look at why the Bills lost that game, it's because they couldn't cover anyone. And because they couldn't cover anyone, they had absolutely no pass rush. Like Patrick Mahomes did whatever he wanted against the Buffalo Bills. And I blame pass rush on that. And it wasn't because the Bills are terrible in the secondary. I mean, they weren't good without Tre'Davious White, but they weren't terrible. They still had 2 all-pro safeties. I'm going to give that to the lack of pass rush. So I would take pass rush, at least at this point. Now, would I want a balance of both? Absolutely. But I mean, if I had to take the all-pro corner versus the all-pro defensive end, I think I'm going to go, or like an Aaron Donald, like an interior guy like that. Like, I mean, you kidding me? Like, I think I go pass rush.
I am 100% behind you on that. I ever since the Chiefs Buck Super Bowl a couple years back, that was when I really realized, like, that's how you beat the best of the best. And then we go on to see last season For example, the Jacksonville Jaguars take down the Buffalo Bills because the pass rush was eating the offensive line alive, and Josh Allen couldn't get anything going. He couldn't find a rhythm. It's like pass rush, no matter how bad your secondary is, granted, you need guys back there that can play the game of football at a decently high level to help out. But if you're able to get to the quarterback in a very, very quick amount of time with only rushing four guys, it's really such a huge, huge advantage. And I'm finding a hard reason why I would take coverage over pass rush. I mean, you spoke on the divisional game. It's like Patrick Mahomes did whatever he wanted to do. Granted, we were getting in the backfield, but he was able to get away. And the way he was able to play so perfectly in that game, I blame that more so on the pass rush not being able to get him on the ground more than Patrick Mahomes playing a very good game. It's definitely a combination of both, but at the end of the day, getting to the quarterback is going to win you football games, and that's how you beat the best of the best. And even with the 49ers against the Packers, the pass rush was getting in Aaron Rodgers' face. We've seen pass rush disrupt Tom Brady. It's like, there's a number of instances where pass rush definitely is dominating a football game, where I feel like that doesn't really happen with pass coverage nearly as much. So I'm right behind you on that one. The second Q&A question, if you didn't have anything else to add.
No, I'm good with that. You brought up some good points.
Okay. So the second quiz or Q&A question, I'm sorry, is between Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, and Stephon Diggs. Who will have the most touchdowns in 2022? Rank them 1 to
3. Man, hold on. I got the Bills stats right here since I don't remember offhand who had more touchdowns. So let's see. We had Diggs with 10, Gabe Davis, not including the playoff games, 6, and then Dawson Knox with 9. Okay. So this season, I think, what's funny is I'm in the AFC divisional game. Gabriel Davis was able to take advantage of the fact that Stephon Diggs was being bracketed, and he got 4 touchdowns in that game. And I think he kind of put the NFL on notice about how good he really is. And so it's going to be really interesting this next season when teams have to account for both of those guys. Now, they always had to account for Emmanuel Sanders too. I mean, before, so it wasn't like there was nobody, but this is slightly different. So Diggs actually didn't have a ton of touchdowns the season beforehand. I don't remember. It was less than 10 though. But
I think he had 9.
9, yeah. So I'm thinking, man, this is going to be a year where I think Dawson Knox really breaks out. And he showed flashes of it last season. And I think that I'm not ready to put Stephon Diggs number 3 yet, but I think I'm going to go Davis, Diggs, Davis.
Oh, I tried to do it.
Diggs is going to get his. Okay, I'm going to go Diggs, Davis, Knox. I still think Knox is going to have a breakout season. I think it's just going to be more receiving yards and more receptions and touchdowns. But I think you're going to notice him being a top 10, potentially top 5 tight end this season more so than not. But I mean, Gabriel Davis, I mean, they're just talking. I saw Matthew Berry was talking about Gabriel Davis being potentially like the next, like Chris Godwin. Like, could you imagine having Chris Godwin and Stephon, like it's insane. So, I think Davis is going to have a great season. I think he's going to have more receiving yards this season, and I think that's going to show up more on the stat sheet and more receptions. Obviously, I mean, he only had 550 yards receiving last season. So, but I think he's going to get a lot more touchdowns. So I think they're both going to vie for double-digit touchdowns. And I think Dawson Knox will be very close behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, it really racks your brain a little bit. These last 2 seasons, ever since Diggs got here, he has been the touchdown leader. It was 9 in 2020, 10 in 2021. And then you see guys like Gabe Davis break out near the end of the season. He became a tremendous red zone threat. Dawson Knox in the first portion of the year was getting a ton of touchdowns as well. I personally think this is the year, not that it really matters because we're going to be scoring anyway, but this is the year Stephon Diggs is dethroned from a touchdown standpoint. I think, he just can't continue to score. As much as he has been over the last 2 years, I don't think he hasn't been racking up 15, 16 touchdowns or anything, but he's still going to be the focal point of this offense within the 20-yard line. So, and seeing Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox ball out the way they've been inside the 20 has been tremendous. So I would have to say, oh boy, I think I would go Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox. I think that's going to be how it goes between the three.
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement though that Knox is probably third. But I still think, I mean, do you still think that he's going to have a better season than he had last season as far as receptions and yards, or do you think that goes down as well?
I think it definitely, you'd like to think it goes up, without Emmanuel Sanders, without Cole Beasley. I think Dawson Knox is going to be kind of obviously not slipping into the slot wide receiver role necessarily, but he's going to be kind of taking up a majority of Cole Beasley's target share. He's going to be more of that safety blanket, the bigger body that Josh Allen might need when he's scrambling around, or that guy that he's trying to look for when he's tracking back upfield, running to the right, running to the left, and Dawson Knox is mirroring him. I think that's going to be kind of the role that Dawson Knox really takes on this year, and I definitely agree. I think the receptions, especially, will be something that we see increase for Dawson Knox, and I think he deserves that opportunity after what he provided with us for us in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, between Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders, I mean, you're talking over 1,300 yards. That is, if Josh Allen throws over the same amount of yards this season as last season, that has to be made up. I'm sure a lot of it's going to go Jameson Crowder, or Khalil Shakir if he's playing a little bit in the slot or whatever. But a lot of that has to go to Gabe Davis, who only had about 549 yards last season. So you figure, I mean, out of that 1,300, maybe at least 500 go there. Maybe another 500 goes to Jameson Crowder, 600, or maybe Jameson Crowder has a career year, because I don't know if Crowder has had over 700 ever in his career. So, you've seen Josh Allen be able to give players their best season, statistically, even guys coming from other teams like Cole Beasley. So I wouldn't be surprised at that. But yeah, I mean, if baseline minimum, I would say Knox is gonna have at least another couple hundred yards, at least 150 to 200 more yards, and like I said, that's probably top 5 tight end territory.
Yeah, and I definitely I think some people might even creep him up into that kind of conversation already as is. I think it's a little premature for that, but he's already being kind of considered in that range as we speak. So Dawson Knox, I think, is really primed for a big year, and I really hope he's able to capitalize. And the final Q&A question that I have for you is regarding a AFC East rival. Is 2022 where the downfall of the Patriots truly begins? Because ever since they lost Tom Brady, 2020 wasn't great for them, but they didn't actually suck. And then, 2021 came, Mac Jones gets drafted, and they make the playoffs. So they really haven't, suffered too bad as much as, maybe a lot of us Bills fans would like to see. But is 2022 the year where that really starts to happen?
I guess it depends on what your definition of a downfall is, because like I saw Kim's comment, let's hope so for sure. That's I'm definitely hoping so. With Bill Belichick, can never count them out as dead. Like, I mean, if they're second in the division, they could still go like 9-8 and still be second probably in the AFC East. So I think that this is a season that maybe not the downfall, but where people are really, really questioning Bill Belichick. And this is the second season he hasn't had the best quarterback in NFL history, lining up behind center. I think it makes a big difference. And I think you've seen, they were in on the Ryan Bates, auction too at the time when the time came, and Ryan Bates did not choose them. So like, why wouldn't you want to? I mean, then at that point, they only had like 3 offensive linemen as starters. I remember at that point. So I'm like, oh, well, that must mean that maybe Bill Belichick isn't the kind of guy that, you can just recruit players for. Tom Brady was a big recruiting weapon for free agents to come to New England. Now they have to actually pay them like other teams always had to pay them. Like the Bills we're so fortunate to have Josh Allen. We mentioned that earlier, but like, I mean, he was recruiting Von Miller to come here. I mean, he is by himself, just by his play, a great bargaining chip. And then you add the fact that he wants these players and he calls them and texts them, wants them to come, and he's actually legitimately like, trying to get them to come here. I mean, that's huge. So I definitely think they take a step back this season. The downfall, when I think of downfall, I think of them becoming like the Jets have been the
Yeah.
last few seasons. They'll never be that bad. They'll always find a way to win some close games. But I think after that embarrassment, that beat down that the Bills put on them in the playoffs, that people are starting to question that Josh McDaniels is gone. You're going to see some things. It just feels so tumultuous there that they're just it feels like there's almost a mutiny, abroad. So like, I think that they're starting to come back down to earth, and if they do make the playoffs next season, I think they get bounced quickly again, and I think people really start to question how long Bill Belichick is going to hold on, and I think the Patriots brass, the owner Norm Kraft is going to start wondering, how long do I keep this guy along when I could have gotten, a a guy like Kyle Shanahan, Josh McDaniels, like all these other guys, and still I'm sitting with this guy who's like, I don't know, is he 74? I have no idea, but like he's older. So yeah, I think they decline more. I'm not ready to say downfall like a Titanic, like ship sinkage, but I think it's gonna get worse.
Yeah, I think so too. The reason I had this theory, I think it was a couple weeks back, where I think I saw some video where somebody was claiming that they were going through their top five defenses in the NFL or something, or their predicted top five going into 2022, and they still had the Patriots in there, and they said, I think it was like a three or four. They said they'd be surprised, or they wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots even ended up being the number one defense. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, this is the perfect storm for everything to really collapse for the Patriots, right? We're talking about Josh McDaniels leaving. They have, middle of the pack strength of schedule, but granted, they don't have the offense to keep up with these high powered offenses in the AFC. They're going to be, I think their final like 6 or 7 games after their week 10, it's against like the Vikings, the Bengals, the Bills. I mean, even the Dolphins are in there and they have some, pretty tough weapons to keep up with at this point. It's like the teams that they're usually able to steal 3 or 4 wins from in the Jets and the Dolphins are no longer going to be pushovers. So if they have a game or two stolen from one of those teams, their win total I think could really be around 3, 4, 5, 6 games. If they're able to steal a couple from other teams around the conference or the league. So I just had all these thoughts where if there was a year where the Patriots really showed weakness, it would be now. And you also mentioned it; they really haven't added anything to that football team. They really don't have any talent on either side of the ball that really sticks off or jumps off the page. So this is really becoming the perfect storm, and which is why I use downfall. But to say that, going back to my original point, I don't know how anybody could think, this defense is going to be that good again, just knowing how great the conference is around them.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how if you don't have the best quarterback in NFL history who's taking a pay cut every single season, like it's amazing. You can't afford good players and you don't you all your bad draft picks end up actually showing up as bad draft picks. Like that's oh, well, welcome back to what it's like to be a normal,
Yeah,
NFL fan of an NFL franchise. Like the Patriots fans have just been like living the life. We talked about Patrick Mahomes being tossed the keys to the Mercedes Benz as a trust fund kid, at age 16 or whenever he gets his license. Like that's been Patriots fans for the last 20 something years. So they're in for a long, long, road ahead. And especially if Belichick leaves, in the next couple of years, like, I mean, welcome back to rebuilding because, you've definitely not left that team with anything that, unless Mac Jones becomes a franchise quarterback, which, it's the jury's still out on, obviously. I don't think he's bad, honestly. I think he's pretty good, but I put him more at least in the Kirk Cousins mold than I would the Josh Allen or, Patrick Mahomes mold for sure. So, but yeah, it's funny. It's funny how that happens. Like you don't get everything going your way and you don't win every single season. You don't have, Randy Moss bending over backwards to come to your play for your team. You don't get all these, Chandler Jones. It's just crazy. Like all those draft picks they've drafted so terribly over the years that now it finally comes to bite them. So I'm all here for it. I'm enjoying it.
yeah, as am I. I think we all are going to be enjoying it, and I think this year really could be a tell as to what the Patriots' future has in store for them. But moving on now, we're going to move into the Would You Rather game. So, Would You Rather? It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to give one player, and I'm going to compare them up against five other players. And to give some context, I want you to look at and compare these players if you were going into next season trying to win a Super Bowl, and which player would you want, like Super Bowl or die? pretty much. So the player we are going to be using is going to be none other than Stefan Diggs. So I'm going to put Stefan Diggs up against some of the other best receivers. And you tell me, and be brutally honest, who you may be taking. So the first one we're going to take is Stefan Diggs versus Amari Cooper. Who are you going to take?
Stephon Diggs, easy. And I like
I
Amari Cooper. I like Amari Cooper, but I don't think he's Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I completely agree. Amari Cooper, I think has seen better days, and with the Cleveland Browns, if he doesn't have Deshaun Watson, I think Amari Cooper's career is definitely going to be, at least the better part of it, is going to be a little bit in jeopardy. But it's only going to get harder as we move through.
I mean,
Next
think
one.
about it real quick with Amari Cooper. He's a perfect example because he couldn't do anything in the Raiders without a good quarterback, and then he gets Dak Prescott as his quarterback. That's a trade that actually went well. You talk about a receiver. I think I did mention that earlier. That like a guy that actually thrived with a new team, and he's one of them. So Stephon Diggs thrived with the Vikings, and now he's thriving with the Bills. So I think you got to give him the edge there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think Amari Cooper, he is one of the better talents, but he's seen the better part of his career at this point. Stephon Diggs is still playing at an extremely high level, so I think that one's a pretty easy, unanimous choice. But the second one, like I said, it's only going to get harder. But Stephon Diggs versus Keenan
I like Stephon Diggs again better. Keenan Allen's more of a slot player anyway. I I think he's immensely talented again. Not to knock on him or like Amari Cooper, but when it comes down to it, like I want a guy that that's. I mean, he's just Stephon Diggs is not only so good at what he does, but he's clutch as hell. Like, do you remember that when he was a Viking, that catch against the Saints when he was gonna get decked like from above and below, and he ended up not getting hit at all, and he ran in for a touchdown to win the game. Like that's clutch. The Bills haven't even really needed him to be like that so far in their postseason, their playoff appearances, but Keenan Allen hasn't seen enough of it. Um, I think he's good. I think he's more of a. I've had him on fantasy before. He's more of a receptions guy than a touchdown and yardage guy, but I think he's good.
Allen. Definitely. I mean,
Still
Keenan
Stephon
Allen.
Diggs.
Yeah, right. I mean, Keenan Allen's a very good receiver, but he's got a tough uphill battle. But to Keenan Allen's credit, he is one of the guys that I think keeps up with Stephon Diggs in the route running category. I mean, these two guys are two of the best when it comes to their footwork and their release off the line of scrimmage, and their ability to cut, one cut, two cut, depending on the area of the field. But Stephon Diggs, unlike Keenan Allen, is a lot better down the field. The intermediate to deeper, parts of the game, I think he definitely dominates over Keenan Allen. But unlike Keenan Allen, this guy knows how to run deep. Mike Evans versus Stephon Diggs.
Oh man, now this is getting tough. Man, didn't Mike Evans just have? Did he have a major injury yet? Because like Keenan Allen has had some major injuries. I was going to say that before. And Stephon Diggs really hasn't had a big injury history at all. I'm trying to think of if he's had any, at least not with the Bills. Um, Man, how do you? Mike Evans may be the closest thing that we have to Megatron in the NFL right now, and he's so good. He's so good. He made Johnny Football exist, and Johnny Football flamed out, as soon as he got to the NFL. And man, I like Mike Evans a lot. This is a tough one. Trying not to go off the bias, the fact that I'm a Bills fan, but I like Mike Evans a lot. I think he's the one I would probably so far have the biggest challenge with. And I think I would probably, just for size, just for grabbing those balls out of the air. He's not. Some of those guys are 6'4", but they play like they're like 5'8". Um, and he's not one of those guys. He's so good. So Stephon Diggs has some good jumps. He's got a good way of high pointing the ball. I gotta give the edge to Mike Evans on this one. Fortunately, I mean, there's few guys that I like over Stephon Diggs, and he's one of them.
No, I am also a big Mike Evans supporter. I feel like Mike Evans doesn't get the support he deserves, or the credit he deserves. I mean, the guy had I think he had 14 or 15 touchdowns this year. He had 14 or 15 touchdowns the year before. He's had, I think, 7 or 8 straight years of 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, he was one of the most consistent wide receivers, and he's very good at what he does. So I think he deserves a ton of credit. It's tough. I think I still have Diggs over Evans, but he's definitely giving him a good run for his money. Either way, these guys both are good at what they do and are some of the best. But if you go with Mike Evans, I might have a feeling where you go with this one. Stephon Diggs versus Jamar Chase. Unless you like Mike Evans that much, I guess we'll see.
Oh man, Jamar Chase is good. He's really good. We've only seen one season from him. Man, that's tough. I'm gonna get the edge to Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs didn't get teamed up with his college quarterback. In his first 4 seasons in Minnesota. I like Jamar Chase a lot. It's just the sample size just isn't as big. I mean, you got to give it to. I mean, Stephon Diggs continues on this trajectory. I mean, he's wearing a yellow jacket, and Jamar Chase had one good season. Now, if he does it again and again and again, two or three more times, then I'll say yes. But small sample size. I like Jamar Chase. I'm taking Stephon Diggs though at this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. The sample size is a big thing. After Justin Jefferson's first season in the NFL, people were ready to catapult him into the top 10, top 7, top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. And I mean, I really hate that because there are players that have put together, like Stephon Diggs in this particular instance, that have put together such large, consistent, and great bodies of work. And these people are ready to throw guys like Jamar Chase because they had one remarkable season, granted, but throw them right in the top 5 over some guys that have had, like I mentioned, great bodies of work. And I think, in this particular instance, Stephon Diggs has the body of work where Jamar Chase doesn't. So I'm right there with you. And I think consistency is a big part of it. I do think Jamar Chase will repeat what he did. Maybe not to the same extent, but he's still going to be very, very good. But until I see it, I just can't put him over Diggs at this point. And number five, this is going to be the hardest one yet, I think, but Stephon Diggs versus Tyreek Hill. We've already talked about Tyreek Hill a little bit, but where do you think these guys rank up?
I'm going Stephon Diggs just based on the fact that he's so much more likable than Tyreek Hill. It's not that we talked about making excuses for players. Like he's another one of those guys. I mean, he was found guilty of, domestic abuse to his like pregnant girlfriend. It's like and it's so funny. I made it something. We were talking about the AFC Championship game a few years ago, and I made a comment about Tyreek Hill like being held back from the sidelines, and I said something quirky, which probably wasn't the right thing to say, but I was pretty fired up at the moment about how the Bills were getting stomped out, and the Chiefs were kind of playing a dirty game at that point. And I said the only reason that Tyreek Hill was held from the sidelines is because he didn't see his pregnant girlfriend on the field, which is kind of like it's pretty wrong, but it's not untrue. So, a guy like that wants to fight someone on the field when he's not even on the field and has to be held back, like he's probably a guy that's pretty violent. So, um, anyway, so for that standpoint, like, could Josh Allen use a guy like that? Or like, are you kidding me? Like on a 7-yard slant and the guy takes it to the house? Like, who wouldn't want or off a bubble screen with some decent blocking? Like a guy can take that to the house? Like, absolutely. But I don't think Josh Allen needs that. I like Tyreek Hill's talent a lot. I mean, what's not to like about him? I just can't get past the personality thing. It's like Deshaun Watson versus Josh Allen. Like, I mean, Deshaun Watson has done a lot in the NFL. I still want Josh Allen because of the personality thing. Stephon Diggs is super personable. He's super easy to like. He's a funny guy. He seems like a genuinely nice, decent, good guy, even though we don't really know who these guys are behind closed doors. I like him more, and I would take Stephon Diggs just on the fact that I think they're kind of close. Maybe different talent and skill sets, but both really good wide receivers. And I think the edge just goes for personality.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame you for that at all. And I mean, on top of the personality part of it, Tyreek Hill, although he's a tremendous game changer, he was the reason why Patrick Mahomes had the extra 2 or 3 interceptions he threw this year. I mean, there were a lot of passes that went through the hands of Tyreek Hill, bounced off the helmet of Tyreek Hill, right into the hands of a defender like Micah Hyde. I don't know if you remember the regular season matchup we had against the Chiefs, but Tyreek Hill, I think it was just a simple drag, a short slant route. It went off his hands and it went right into Micah Hyde's hands, and he was running the other way with it. And that happened a couple times to Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, I think Stephon Diggs easily has an argument here, regardless of the speed factor, just because he's so much more secure with the football. He's always going to be getting open. The most important part of football is making sure you secure the catch. And, no matter what happens after the catch, if you don't catch the ball on a consistent basis, then it really doesn't matter. So, Stephon Diggs, in my opinion, has a very good argument in this case. Better than I would say he had prior to 2021, but I definitely think Stephon Diggs could be taking over Tyreek Hill here. But with that wrapping up for Would You Rather, we have the hot take segment. Do you want to kick it off with your hot take, or do you want me to kick it off?
So I
Um,
was thinking about this, with there was rumors, there are rumors that the Panthers are still really trying hard to get Baker Mayfield from the Browns. It's just a question of if they can afford it, because I'm sure they're going to have to give him a new contract, all that fun stuff. Um, I think the hot take is that after this season, I'm kind of I'm kind of not really surprised that it's not happening already, but that the after this season, all of the national commercials for State Farm go from Baker Mayfield to Josh Allen. Like, I mean, Josh Allen is in desperate need of some national, commercials, like nationally televised commercials, so people see him more. I mean, he could be the next, like, do you remember those funny Peyton Manning and Brett Favre commercials, like
yeah,
on back in the day? He is easily like the next guy. He's a goofy guy. He's a blue collar guy. He's a farmer. He's perfect for that. And he's had to work for everything he's gotten. And he's easily could be the face of, State Farm, or something like that. So I think that after this year, Baker Mayfield doesn't play a snap as long as Deshaun Watson isn't suspended for the entire season. Baker Mayfield doesn't see a snap unless absolutely necessary. He gets traded to the Panthers. People forget about him. State Farm forgets about him. And all of a sudden, they're like, what's the next hottest quarterback? Oh, how about the guy that had more wins than Patrick Mahomes, more touchdowns than Patrick Mahomes, more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes? The other guy on the roster, like let's start kicking it. I mean, they had him in the match, so the players think highly of him. They know that he was going to get some eyes and attention. It's just a matter of when are these national brands finally going to realize, that Josh Allen is that good and not just like a quarterback that just plays for a small team, a small city team like Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, I think you honestly could be hitting the nail on the head with something that not many people are giving consideration. I mean, Baker Mayfield, he's great in the commercials, but like you said, I mean, State Farm is going to want to have somebody that's relatively relevant in the NFL, being the face of their company, in regards to the sporting side of things. And if Baker Mayfield doesn't see the field, I mean, how long does he keep that position? And like you mentioned once again, just Josh Allen was just a part of the match. He does a lot of other things with what was the other thing? I thought he did something else pretty large too, but
He did Pepsi. I
he
know he
was,
did some commercials for them,
yes, I think he was
but
also
not on a
on.
large scale.
What was that picture him and Diggs took together? Was that
Oh,
the front
Sports Illustrated. This is the kids issue, SI Kids.
Yes, yes. I knew he did something else too, but like
But
he's already been getting stuff like that. But State Farm, that would be huge for Josh Allen because everybody knows Baker for that one reason.
yeah, and I got to be honest, I love those State Farm commercials with Baker. I'm a huge fan. Like, those things are freaking hilarious. So I mean, it'll miss him, but like, how much better would Josh be in that role? Like, as someone just like a funny guy. Like, he's funny.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it would be it's just so every single time like something like that happens with Josh Allen where he's a part of this or a part of that, it really makes you think like how far we've come. Not only being just a small market team that became a good football team, but people actually care about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, or looking at the Buffalo Bills in the same light they see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, or Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. It's like he's a part of that company. And 3-4 years ago from now, I never would have thought that this would have been the case, but here we are.
Yeah, can I just say, like, that's crazy for sure that you say that, and sometimes we have to pinch ourselves for it
Yeah.
actually being the way it is, but, like, we have to give ourselves credits as fans because we lived through a lot of garbage years, a lot of garbage football to get to this point. I mean, we deserve it more than almost any other fan base in the NFL because of what we've had to endure, because at any given time through the 17-year drought and even before that, we could have easily jumped ship and taken another team, and I think a lot of, future Bills fans or people that could have been Bills fans during that period ended up jumping ship because the Bills weren't good. I mean, those are fair weather fans. We don't want them, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it's true. Like, we deserve this as a fan base, and we shouldn't feel bad for deserving it either. Like, this is what we've earned. This isn't our birthright. We didn't come into this world like Patriots fans Patriots fans in their 20s is like, this is what we've, this is our entitlement. this is exactly what we deserve. We've earned it, and it feels so good. We're so lucky, but at the same time, we're also so deserving.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we get the our football team has lacked national recognition over the last 15 years or so, but our fan base never has, and for good reason. We have always supported our football team on another level, and we've always gotten that recognition, which we definitely deserve, and we definitely deserve for the Buffalo Bills to finally be on a competitive level. And I think over the last couple of years now, it's been some of the best memories of our lives. I mean, watching some of these playoff games, seeing us compete in these highly staged games like the Thanksgiving football game. We're playing, I think, on Christmas Eve this year. It's like we're getting all this national attention, and it really feels amazing. So definitely something to acknowledge, and that's an interesting hot take. I like that one a lot. Definitely not what I expected, but my hot take is still more on the football side of things. But it is going to be that Tua will be a top 12 quarterback in 2022 statistically. I don't think his talent level is going to show much different, but with the weapons he has around him, he's getting a head coach that comes from a San Francisco 49ers tree where Jimmy Garoppolo is over there, who's not the most talented quarterback, but he puts up pretty decent numbers on a year-to-year basis because of the weapons he has around him. And I could see Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Mike Gesicki. I mean, he's got quite the arsenal around him, and I could see the RPO offense really helping out to the quick screen, the jail screen, the quick slants. I could really see him racking up the numbers easily because of the run after catch and the support he's going to get. So I might be drafting Tua in fantasy with that being said.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. I would not just on the outset say that Tua would be a top 12 quarterback. I mean, but it's so funny. Like if you were to say top 10 coordinate or top 10 quarterback, absolutely not. But like top 12, with you mentioned with all the weapons he's got, they're beefing up their offensive line. And if you think about it, like a lot of really good quarterbacks have retired. Like there's only like 7 or 8 really good quarterbacks, and, like, most of them are in the AFC, right? Like, I always wondered why Tom Brady came back to the before we found out about the Dolphins, debacle, I always wondered why Tom Brady came back, and then I think it's because he looked in the NFC and he's just like, "What? It's just like me, Dak, and Aaron Rodgers." Like, that's about it, right? Like, that's it. So, but anyway, yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. I could see that happening. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, hot take. We're breaking the 72 Dolphin streak. That would be what? Wow. Who feels bad? I don't. 20-0, baby. Imagine that. Is that a hot take? Oh man, 20-0 would be. I don't know. I feel like it's getting to a point where I don't know if we'll ever see a 20-0 season with the extra football game. That's a hot one. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it would have been a hot take breaking the 72 Dolphins streak just by winning a 16-game season, before the Patriots were just one game short. But yeah, no, no, that's that is the hottest take imaginable. Scott is flaming hot is touching the sun, but I love it. I really out of all the hot takes that we talked about tonight between yours and mine, Michael, I hope Scott's comes true, to be honest.
Oh, totally. I mean, I could give a flying shit if Tua consistent quarterback. I will take the 20-0 season for the Buffalo Bills without a question. I mean,
I would go bald. I would go bald. I would like, I don't know. There's so many things that I would have bad happen to me. So before I was like, have the Bills go 20-0, win a Super Bowl. I mean, geez, yeah.
this city wouldn't be able to handle it. We would explode. We would blow the roof off the sky if that was even a thing. That's how ridiculous this city
Like no kidding. I've definitely thought about this. Is how I'm gonna have to take like 2 or 3 days off of work for the
is.
parade, just to like one is to celebrate it, and then the other two are just to recover from it. Like it's
We're
gonna
not
be.
going to be able to. Businesses are going to have to close for like 4 days. Nobody's going to want to. Nobody's going to want to work. Who's going to go to work? Like we
Not,
will actually have to shut down and have like a national Bills parade week because nobody's going to want to go into
oh, exactly, absolutely.
work. Tattoo time, guys. Yeah, I mean, a lot of tattoos will be given.
Oh yeah, I will get one. I've never gotten a tattoo. I would get a tattoo. I've been thinking about it. You know what I'm worried about if I get a Bills tattoo is because the way that my luck works is they're gonna change the logo or something. Like it's the perfect
Yeah.
charging buffalo, and all of a sudden they're like, you know what? We're gonna change the charging stripe to red or to blue instead of red. I'm like, oh come on, just like making my tattoo obsolete after one season.
Well, it can't be any worse than getting like a Super Bowl tattoo before they actually win the Super Bowl. people out there.
That's
Stupid.
true. That's worse.
All right. So, with that all being said, we are getting to in my opinion, the most anticipated part of the show. And this is going to be the Caveman's quiz game. If you are not familiar with the Caveman quiz game, this is how it works. So, it's going to be 5 NFL quiz questions. It's going to be the offseason events, the stats, the history, the draft question, and the awards question. Each question is going to be easy, medium, and or hard, your choice. Easy gets 10 points, medium gets 20, hard gets 30. If you get a question correct, you're going to have a follow-up true or false question, which is worth half of the question you chose before. There's one mulligan per game, so if you get one wrong and you want to try another chance at that category, you may. And then at the end of it, there's going to be a final, not double or nothing wager per se, but you get to put down, I got to fix that. You get to put down a certain amount of points. So like kind of like Jeopardy, Final Jeopardy, where you get to bet a certain amount of money. You can bet the amount of points you have at the end of the game, depending on how well you're doing. Is that clear?
Yeah, sure. I will only need you to repeat it another 5 times. But yeah, no. I definitely don't know if I could become Matt Perino, who is now the leader in this game. But
Yeah,
I'm
it is
hoping to not come in last. We'll see.
well, you are actually Matt Perino said that before the game. I've kind of done a lot of revamping of the quiz game since Matt was on, so you definitely have a lot more opportunities than he does. So you have a good opportunity to take the top spot. I must say. All right, so we're gonna start with the off-season events question. So you get to choose whether you want the easy, the medium, or the hard question.
Let's go medium.
We're gonna go medium to begin with. So the medium question for off-season events is: who was hired to be the Chicago Bears head coach this offseason?
Oh man. Who is the Chicago Bears? You see how I'm buying myself time? Who was to type it in into Google? No, I'm just kidding. Um, oh my God. I have no clue who the Bears head coach is this season. Isn't that sad? I just know it's not Matt Nagy. That's the only thing I know. Who is it? I have no idea.
It is Matt Eberflus, the former defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. He took over and he got hired for the Chicago Bears this offseason.
Man, I should have asked for easy. Okay, go on next one.
All right. So the next one is going to be the stats question. Do you want the easy, the medium, or the hard?
Man, I feel like I got to bounce back in a hard way. Let's go easy on this one.
All right. So the easy question is: who led the NFL in passing yards last season?
Tom Brady.
Correct. Tom Brady did lead the NFL in passing yards. So you get 10 points for the easy question, and you get a follow-up true or false. So I'm going to say a statement, and you got to tell me whether it's true or false. This is going to be worth half of the easy, which is 5 points. Mm-hmm. True or false? Tom Brady led the NFL in passing touchdowns last
season. That is... That's also true.
You are right. It is also true. Tom Brady dominated the stat sheet last season.
You have like 42 touchdowns or something?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. The guy's 40 freaking gazillion years of age. The dude's throwing freaking 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Can I say something? Sorry, go ahead.
You go right ahead.
No, I was gonna say, can I say something about Tom Brady? And so I'm gonna bring this up on my podcast this next week. But Tom Brady is one of those guys who like went from me hating him to like me actually really liking him with his new PR team or whatever. Since he's not been a Patriot, it's not just because he's not a Patriot that I kind of like him. It's because he's just funny now. He like actually has a personality now. Do you ever find yourself with that same internal conflict?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, my dad, I go back and forth with my dad all the time, and he gets like, "How can you possibly even say you like Tom Brady?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, he's just funny, man. Like I don't know how else to put it. He's a funny guy. He puts a very good, if it's fake or not, I don't know, but he puts a very good public persona out there on the internet, on TV, on the field. He puts a very likable face on every single time he's got a camera on him. And, when you put him up against somebody like Aaron Rodgers playing on the match where millions of people are watching, he's definitely a lot more likable than Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah, easily. But I will say that one thing I didn't like about Tom Brady in the match was his trash talk. Like, his trash talk was like elitist trash talk. You know what I mean? Like the way that he was going after Josh Allen specifically was more like it wasn't like busting chops like you might do with your buddies. Like he was talking about like uh oh yeah, like when Josh Allen gave him the golf ball that had a shirtless Tom Brady on it, which was funny, right? Like that was funny. And then he goes, "Oh, from a college I never heard of to a golf ball I've never heard of." It's like, well, we're not talking branding here. Like that's kind of like I don't that's not funny. It's not funny, Tom. Like it's just like he was like, "Oh, I hit that I hit that ball a little chunky on that one. Oh, I hit it a little Josh Allen." Like that was his joke.
Yeah, I heard
And
that.
it's like Josh isn't even fat. Like, you save
No,
those. Josh is just like he's a thick dude. Like he's muscular and he's big and strong. Like sure, he's not like 6% or 5% model body fat like you are, Tom, but like most people aren't, bro. Like that wasn't funny to me. Like if my co-hosts or my best friends were like, dude, like I hit that like Nate, like chunky like Nate. I'd be like, dude, fuck, screw you, man. Like,
yeah, no, he did say it,
whatever.
yeah, screw you is right.
That's not funny. Like, make fun of my haircut before. I don't know, something else. It's like, it was just the way he was making fun of him. I just didn't like it for some reason. Even though I have found myself liking Tom Brady more.
Definitely. No, I get what you're coming from. He kind of was like, I don't even know if I'd say big brother, little brother kind of, trash talk. It was almost like a high school, like a senior in high school to like a sophomore or like a freshman in high school. That's the way like
Yeah,
I came across. That's the way I interpreted it, especially now that you say it.
definitely more of a hazing. You're right than an actual like back and forth. Like, yeah.
Definitely. All right. So question number 3, the history question. Do you want to do the easy, the medium, or the hard for this?
Let me try a hard one. I haven't done a hard one yet.
All right. So the hard question is, which college has produced the most Hall of Famers? My sound effect.
I'm gonna say I think it might be for some reason this college keeps sticking out in my mind, and it can't be right because it might just be right in only recent history. But I want to say the University of Miami.
Miami is not one of the colleges that had one of the most some of the most Hall of Famers.
It's probably like Notre Dame or something.
Notre Dame. There's actually 2 answers. Notre Dame is one. USC is the other one.
Damn.
USC is like I feel like a powerhouse, but Notre Dame is definitely was going to be the other one that you could have chosen.
USC hasn't produced any Hall of Famers in at least current players, like
No, they
any really
haven't.
good current players I can think of that are from out of USC.
Right. Yeah, but there was a period of time where they like were producing them on a ridiculous rate. Like OJ Simpson, Reggie Bush came from USC, right? There was a number of guys that could. When
Broadway
I
Joe, didn't Broadway Joe come from USC?
yes, I
I
think
believe
he
so.
did. There was just the earlier part of I won't even say 2000, but probably prior to the 21st century, they were pumping out top tier players in the NFL. But yeah, so Notre Dame and USC were the answers to that. All right, so moving on. You have a mulligan, by the way. Whenever you want to use that, I want to remind you you do have a mulligan.
Wait, so how many more questions do I have then?
There are 2 more questions. A
Thank you
draft.
for reminding me about the mulligan. If I use a mulligan, I get like another hard question, right?
For another category, not
Or
for the.
like, okay, okay, gotcha.
So do you want to save the mulligan then?
I'm gonna say the mulligan.
Okay. So we're going to move on to question number 4. This is the draft question. Do you want the easy, the medium, or the hard question for the draft?
Give me the medium.
All right. So the medium question for the NFL draft is, in the 2022 NFL draft, did the AFC or the NFC have more selections in the top 10?
NFC.
Correct. NFC did have more selections. It was 6-4. I think the Jets had 2 of the AFC selections. So it was really almost kind of a NFC heavy, but you are correct. The follow-up question, so that gives you 15 plus 20 is 35, I think, if my math is correct. So this is
Yep.
going to be worth 10 points for the true false. True or false? There was not a single offensive player selected in the top 5 of the 2022 NFL
True.
Correct. It is true. There was not a single offensive player. It went Aiden Hutchinson or Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, and another edge rusher. I think it was was it the Giants? I can't remember off the top of my head. But yes, you are correct either way.
Jeez, I
So
can't think
that
of it. I
brings
can't think of it either. I can't think of the fifth one.
it was the Giants, right?
I'm trying to. Yeah, but who was it? Was it another corner?
It was Kayvon Thibodeau, right?
Let's
That
give it.
was
Yeah,
five.
yeah. That sounds right.
He was in that 4 to 5 range. But yeah, either way, you are correct. So that brings your total up 30 plus 15, right? I think. Oh,
So I think I had 30, 20 plus 15. I had 35. So plus 10.
Yeah, so you
45?
got the oh god. This is becoming too complex for my day. We're gonna so you got the oh boy. No, we'll tally it up in a minute. Well actually then you'll need to know how many points you have because you're going to the final question. So that's actually kind of
Man, I should have done that mulligan when I could have, huh?
you can
Now,
still I'll let you go back at the end and then use a mulligan on one of the categories that you got wrong. So I think you are at 45 because you got the easy one, which was 15 total, and then you got this next one right, which is 20 plus 10, so
mhm.
30 plus 15, so 45 points on the board right now. My math started to add up finally. So the final question is going to be the awards question. Do you want the easy, the medium, or the hard award question?
Let's see. Give me the medium.
All right, the medium award question is: who are the only two unanimous MVP winners in NFL history?
The only two unanimous MVP winners in NFL history. NFL history altogether. Geez, since man, I feel like I only know the history back from when I watched the game, and then like just like I just hear of names and have seen highlights, of the other players. I want to say one has got to be OJ Simpson, and if I'm not right with that one, what's the sense in going into the other two or the other one? Is OJ one of them?
He is not.
What? Oh man! Oh, hold on. Let me guess. Even though I know I can't get it right. Um, what about Aaron Rodgers?
It was not Aaron Rodgers.
Tom Brady. Peyton
Yes,
Manning.
Tom Brady is one of them, and the other one you might kick yourself for if you do remember. It was Lamar Jackson actually. Lamar Jackson won.
Really? I didn't. Jeez, wow.
So it was Tom Brady. I think it had to be '07 when he went crazy. And then Lamar Jackson in 2018, I think.
Oh, it was the one that was the Tom Brady 50 touchdown season, wasn't it? Yep. Okay.
Tom Brady went off the wall, so he was unanimous MVP that year. And then Lamar Jackson, whenever he won, which was 2018 or 19, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But they are the two unanimous MVP winners. So you do
Okay,
get them all again.
Oh, perfect.
So which one do you want to? You got the awards question wrong, or I guess you could use it for the other ones if you didn't use that question yet. But I'll let you choose a category and let you know what. So there was
Let's
hockey,
do
history.
let's do history.
All right, we'll go back to the history. So you did already.
Oh, did I already do that one in the medium? Okay.
You did the hard one for that.
Okay.
Do you want that still, or do you want another one?
Let's do medium.
Okay, the medium for the history question for the mulligan. Which franchise has the most MVP winners to its name?
Man, this has got to be a franchise that has done a lot in the NFL. It's won a lot of championships, but has done it with multiple people doing well. So I was going to say the Steelers because they've won a lot of championships, but Ben Roethlisberger didn't really win MVP a lot. I'd say the Patriots, but then it would be only Tom Brady. So then I got to think of someone more like the Cowboys who would have done it in like the 70s and the 90s between Staubach and the 70s. I'm going to say the Cowboys.
It's actually the Packers. The Packers are the team that have the most, with Aaron Rodgers with 4, Brett Favre had 3. I think Bart Starr had one, and then two running backs had some at the end or the early portion of I think the 60s and the 70s. So the Green Bay Packers have had the most MVPs.
Man, that's good. That's good. That's a good question.
They have, yeah, 10, I think it was.
They're
Aaron
all
Rodgers.
good. They're all good that I don't get right. They're all amazing questions. I can't believe, that's why they didn't get them right. They were amazing questions.
I always say to every guest that I have on the show, I would suck if I was on the other. I am the worst trivia player on God's green earth, so I just do the trivia. I don't play it. But and then finally, so you have 45 points on the board total, and of course you get the wager question. How many points do you think you're gonna want to wager?
I mean, geez, let's see, 45 points. Let's do
Reminder,
let's do 20 points. Now we're what topic is it? Do I know that before going into it?
this will be, yeah, you can know. This is going to be a statistical question.
Do I go all out to try to tie Matt Perino? Do I want to be the only guy with 0? I don't know if I want that one. Of course, will I just be forgotten because you only have a top 5 leaderboard as of now? But give me let's do 25.
All right, so for 25 points, Nate is putting on the line for the wager question. And all right, here we go. Wager question for 25 points. Who led the NFL in interceptions thrown last season?
Who led the NFL in interceptions thrown? Let's see. It's got to be someone that played the whole season, so it's not Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a great season last year, but did he lead the NFL in INTs? Let's see. It's not Tom Brady because he doesn't throw an INT. It's not Aaron Rodgers. Man. So it's got to be a middling quarterback that played the whole season, but wasn't terrible enough to get yanked. And it's not a player that was good enough. That was just like a baby clock management quarterback like Tua or Mac Jones or Zach Wilson. I'm going to go with, let's see. Let me just throw a name out there because I have no idea who this is. So this is going to be a complete guess. I'll go with Patrick Mahomes.
It was not Mahomes. It was actually Trevor Lawrence and Matthew Stafford both shared 17 interceptions thrown this year. So Patrick Mahomes led the NFL in interceptions. I think it was through like the first 2 or 3 weeks. He had upwards of like 8 or 9 interceptions at that point of the year. But then he started to slow down once they actually started to find a rhythm. But he was up there in the early portion of the year. He was throwing like 1 or 2 interceptions a game, which is very unlike Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, so he had 13 only. So just a few off.
If he would have kept on that pace, I mean, Patrick Mahomes would have had 20 interceptions the way he was going.
Yeah, everyone thought he was done.
Yeah, I know. Everybody was saying, "Oh, the Chiefs are done. They're going to miss the playoffs." Like, yeah, okay, we'll see about that. All right, well, there we go. That will be the finished portion of the quiz game. Nate, I really appreciate you coming on. It was a blast to shoot the shit with you tonight. And it was very fun to have a lot of valuable conversations, a lot of ground, and I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on, man. This was a lot of fun. I'd seen your format before, and it was just like a cool, different formula that I think that not a lot of people actually put a lot of thought in and prep work into. I know I don't on my podcast. So I for sure appreciate that. No, this was a good conversation, an hour and 20 minutes already, and it feels like it flew by on my end. So for all I can say, man, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for asking me to even come on. This means a lot.
Of course, man. It was a blast, and Justice has always said to me, you're a really good guy, you're a really great dude, and I was like, anybody that Justin loves, or Justice loves. I'm sorry. I know I'm gonna have a great time with too, and I'm very happy to have you on. on, Nate. And you are one of the best podcasters. I've been, I mentioned I did purchase the Third and Cole sweatshirt, so it's been a bit that I've been listening to a lot of the Buffalo Rumblings productions. I mean, you guys produce tremendous content on a week to week basis. So it was a blast and really a blessing to have you on. So thank you very much, Nate. And if you have any closing thoughts, anybody that's been in the comment section, thank you guys for watching. And as always, I hope to see you guys next week. Hope to see you in the next video. And peace. Go Bills.
Go Bills.